Hey y'all, welcome back. This is Glendemonium with another podcast. My last video, I went over work-related stress, and then it got me thinking that maybe work-related stress is too small of a subject. I actually want to touch upon four stresses that I've actually found out within my own life that I want to share with you, my experiences, and perhaps maybe ways to deal with this kind of stress. And I'm not gonna try to waste everyone's time here. I'm doing this as an experiment to keep my time short of these videos. Of course, I say that now, and then by the time I'm done, 20 minutes will pass. But let's get right down to it. The first type of stress that I've found out a long time ago is physical stress. And then when I call physical stress, I'm thinking more like labor intensive. Either that or maybe you're getting beat up. You're, like kind of like physical abuse. But I'm thinking more like labor intensive, like if you're doing a lot of heavy lifting, if you work at a place where it requires a lot of pushing and pulling, lifting, a lot of like construction, warehouse type of work, or maybe you have to lift things that are more than your weight on a normal amount or an abnormal amount of time, I should say. Like, let's say you're at a job where you sit down, but then you have to do like, oh, gotta lift this 50-pound server. But imagine having to haul 50 pounds of that, of anything, just randomly. I'm kind of getting lost here. Sorry, my train of thought's kind of going. I had a long day at work. Uh, when I'm thinking of labor intensive, like let's say if you had a bunch of stuff you needed moved and you got it done, but then your supervisor decides, oh well, now I don't like it there. Think of it as a good analogy, like you're moving furniture, and then you happen to move furniture for this real picky old lady who can't really, she can barely lift 10 pounds, but she has no problem telling you, okay, well, I don't like this couch here. Could you move it there? You know what? I don't like the couch here. Let's try this wall. And then, okay, you know what? You had it right the first time. And at the same, and you're the guy moving, sweat, and you're just like, lady, make up your freaking mind. That's kind of what I mean by physical stress. Um, and it sucks, especially if you're in the kind of work where it's labor intensive, or maybe maybe you're the man of the house, and you got a wife that doesn't really do a whole lot, so she kind of expects you to do all the heavy lifting, but she has no real empathy when it comes to your back or your muscle aches, and because over time a lot of that physical activity can really be draining on your body. As a matter of fact, I know a couple guys who worked air conditioning for a long time, and I recall them telling me stories that at a certain point, it gets really hard on your back. It takes its toll. A lot of people try to say, well, I work a trade job. And it's actually really common in the trade field where, you might be able to take it when you're young. You might be able to build a little bit of muscle there. But then as you get older, things start to slowly break down, and you got to eventually have to back away and find something that's not as intensive. And I mean, I don't know how somebody in their 40s could still be lifting up all air conditioners and whatnot on their backs, or lifting heavy pipe and heavy wood. I mean, some might be able to manage it, but man, I bet they're probably going through Bayer like Tic Tacs. They do still make Bayer, right? Or maybe it's aspirin. Maybe okay, aspirin like Tic Tacs. Anyway, that's kind of an example I want to give for physical stress. And there are ways to get around physical stress, and usually that is to take a long, hot shower. A long, hot shower, dip in a pool, or something to unwind that's not physically demanding. Hopefully, like when you get home, your significant other ain't going to start pinning the kids and all the other heavy lifting at home, because that kind of sucks. You work at a job where you do heavy lifting there, but then when you get home, there's even more heavy lifting waiting for you at home. And you just can't break away from that. And I feel you. I hate that. And that's when you have to sit down with that other person and say, hey, look, I just got done doing 8 hours or 12 hours of physical draining work. Please, can I have an hour to myself? And if they give you crap, then okay, that's when you want to go in the car and go somewhere else. Don't go to the gym because you've got more than a day's workout doing all that stuff. I'd say just find a nice place to just chill. Take up meditation. I know a lot of people don't think about meditations like that. I'm not into that newfangled new age stuff. It's like, don't knock until you tried it. Yoga is another one. I mocked yoga for years because I thought it was just stupid until I came to a point where I was dealing with a lot of stress, and I started doing it, and it works. Maybe it's a psychological thing, but all I know is I felt a lot of relief after trying some of it out. Just pop a video up on YouTube and go at it. All right, the physical stress down. Next one is verbal stress. You might be familiar with this, but you know there was this huge anti-bullying campaign going on. It's still ongoing. When I think of verbal stress, I think of years. I'd say years and years of people being incredibly rude, incredibly nasty to me, and it's over a long period of time. Um, and you know the worst part about it is this stuff can eat at you, even if you don't think you're not letting it eat at you. Your brain is a master of having these memories just flash in your face when you least expect it. And then over time, it's just you get angry. You get angry. That anger builds. You know that it creates that verbal stress. Um, I just want to also clarify. I'm no physician. I'm just making a list of the types of stress that people might be able to relate to. Anyway, with that out of the way, let me continue. Um, I've been bullied I'd say almost my entire life. I don't try not to hold any grudges, but man, it is hard. It is hard because if I'm not getting verbal insults at school or at work, I'll get them at home, and sometimes it's over the most stupidest things. Like I'm a clumsy guy. I make a lot of accidents, but when someone calls you dummy repeatedly over and over, and not in a silly joking way, more like, "What do you think you're doing, you dummy?" Like that, and this wasn't just like a one time thing. It was like numerous repeated offenses like this, and I never realized how many years I've been putting up with that. That it's finally starting to eat into my subconscious, where it I would have days where I'm just zoned out, just thinking of all the horrible things I had to endure, and it's put me in anxiety mode and getting panic attacks. Like they start become more frequent, And I mean, this is the kind of stuff where I think I need to go see a shrink at some point. I can't afford one right now, but this is kind of where I'm at, and it's not fun. Sorry, I'm trying to close a window here. Yeah, the verbal stress, it's a thing. It is a thing. I mean, anybody who's been a victim of bullying, especially those in the in the LBGT community, or people who are just having a hard lot in life, and it sucks when you're around people who are not very empathetic towards, and sometimes, yeah, some of it's self-inflicted. Like we put ourselves in a situation where we could stand up for ourselves, and it would just cause more verbal stress. Because I mean, you've ever been to a shouting match? Like, let's say if you had an argument with a born again Christian, that's just adding more verbal stress because the born again Christian has this crazy worldview where his worldview is right, and he's trying to shoot you down, but at the same time, you're putting your foot down and saying, no, you're not, you're wrong, and so you got this back and forth between you, and nobody could meet eye to eye. That's another good form of verbal stress. And I'm not saying that in a good way. It's a bad. It's another form of verbal stress. It's bad. You want to, and it's conflict. And life is all about conflict sometimes, and it sucks. Um, if there was a way I could tell my old self how to deal with verbal stress, is to not let it get to you. But man, it's very easy to let that stuff get to you. It's actually harder to try to ignore it because when you're surrounded by verbal stress, it accumulates. It adds up. It's like you built this a debt of stress, and then over time it just accumulates, and then suddenly you're in your 30s, and you want to just lie on the floor. You don't want to do anything. Your mind wants, like, you're worrying about this stuff, and I can't imagine what it's like. I'm dealing with this right now. Actually, I've got a lot of stress that a lot of PTSD. Like, I mean, I hate saying PTSD because it feels like I'm not a war veteran or anything like that. But I know PTSD extends not just to war veterans, but it's just traumatizing experience. I've had a lot of traumatizing events growing up. Um, and some of it major, some of it minor. But like I said, it just adds up. I don't have a whole lot of good memories to counteract a lot of the bad memories. I still have images of people just screaming in my face, and and shooting me down. And it's not just that; it's like a whole group of people. Like there are adults who bully. Like even, I knew people at work that would wait for me to like walk into something, and it'd be like a crowd of people sitting there. They're looking at me, and this is like PTSD from high school, where there's that group of a-holes that are sitting in there, they're talking smack, and then they're waiting for their prey to walk all by themselves. They're looking at you, they're already whispering, they're giggling, they're starting to laugh, they're still looking at you, they're pointing, and then one of them gets up and says something mean, and then gets everyone in that area to start laughing at you. That's another form of verbal stress, and it sucks. As much as you want to go there and punch those people lights out, in adulthood, it's not a good idea because you'll get sent to jail. And sadly, there are 20 and 30-year-olds who still act like they're in high school. I mean, that's probably where they peaked, and they don't want to lose that, which is sad in itself. Anyway, I'm going on too long on the verbal. Another one, emotional stress. I guess you could also call it mental stress, but emotional. You've probably know somebody who's been in an abusive relationship, and it's not one that's always physical, it's just mental. Like the guy plays some serious mind games, he's cheating on you, but he's lying on it. Or the girl, she's withholding sex because she's having an affair, or maybe she's kind of dealing with, or she's making you pay for something that you probably didn't know you did wrong, something really stupid. But emotional stress can also take its toll because it's also life changes. You might have a death in the family. Maybe you lost someone important. You had to move. You lost your job. Believe it or not, even if you lost a crappy job, like if you've been there for as many years and it just feels like, wow, a big part of your life is now gone. Let's see, grief, bullying could be another one because with verbal stress, it create like that emotional conflict kicks in, and it's wreaking havoc with your emotions. You don't know, you feel sad and upset when you shouldn't be because you're giving those people power over you, even if they're not around anymore. And what the crazy thing about bullying is, because so many people who bully tend to actually forget. Most bullies actually forget who you are. Some might actually remember you, but they probably don't think that what they did to you isn't that big of a deal. But to you, you basically set their world crashing down. And at the same time, you don't want to give them that power of you. And so, the ones that actually want to reform, the one that actually apologizes and goes out of the way without you having to say the word, you forgive those guys because it takes a lot of courage to own up to being a jackass to somebody. I know a lot of adult bullies, people who I'm close to that can never own up to that. And I just look at them as like, man, these are sad human beings, and these people make themselves feel better by putting other people down, even when they're past that age where you're like, dude, grow up. Another type of emotional stress is holding a grudge. Now, I'm kind of an expert in this field because, I've had a lot of people do some really nasty things to me over the many, many, many years I've been alive. And this causes me to hold a lot of grudge because, see, one of the big deals about holding a grudge is a lot of people have these preconceived notions about me that I couldn't really dispel. I'm mixed race, but growing up in a place like Kingman, we have a bit of a racial problem for a while. So people naturally assumed I was never going to amount to anything. I was going to eventually, in their words, not mine, I was going to eventually join a gang, get a girl pregnant, and leave her with the kid because apparently that's what my people do. And what else? Oh, I'm never going to go to college. That's another one. I'll prove those idiots wrong, but I don't have a job after that. Never going to get married. Okay, I'm not married, but there's a different reason why I'm not married. No, I'm not gay. Let's just say the dating pool in Mojave County sucks. Okay, it sucks. But I can probably make a video about that. And I know there might be some people that are close to me like, yeah, whatever, you're single. They don't know shit. Excuse my language. But I remember one person in particular. I guess I didn't really have a crush on at first, but she started warming up to me. And I thought this was like one of the very few women that actually showed interest. And she was always smiling and always making her way to come talk to me. We make a little small chat, and this is at work. Now, I was just a meager housekeeper at the time. And this is I was like in my early 20s, like 20, 21. I was trying to pay my way through school. I was trying to do right. I wasn't like her. I wasn't born from a family who just throws money at them to go to school, because it's like I was surrounded by, rich preppies. Like you're either rich preppy or you're, trailer trash. And I don't want to say trailer trash in that mean derogatory way, but it's like most of the middle class, there was no middle class in Mojave County. You were either, you had more money than you know what to do with, or you didn't. I was the part that did. And anyway, so she started asking me a lot of really interesting questions related to money. Are you going to college? And so how come you're not in college right now? I told her, well, I am. And remember, I also did a video about online school, by the way. Don't do it. Anyway, I told her, what did I tell her? It was something to do with graphic design. But after that, it was the look on her face. The look on her face, everything, and ever since that day, she treated me like I was this creepy stalker that was, I don't know. I guess I was undressing her with my eyes or something, but she was creeped out. And ever since then, she broke off all contact with me. I couldn't even get a chat with her on a regular. Like I couldn't even ask her what's going on. And it wasn't until like months down the road when she started dating this other dude, where one of the, excuse me, coworkers actually confessed and said she's basically been saying that you're a loser, you're a failure, and she's very glad that nothing ever became of that, because she at first liked you, and then she found out you were that graphic. Because I guess she was expecting me to be a business guy, because this is another story I want to get into, but there's this unrealistic expectation when it comes to dating in your 20s, where, and I know this is going to come off as misogynistic, but like, some women expect a guy to make a certain amount of money or have a certain degree by a certain age, because like there's like a checklist that they're going by. But anyway, I'm saving that for another video because that's actually really funny. It's a funny story. But anyway, long story short, I found out and I was mad. And then of course that rush of immaturity came out, and I started acting a really nasty way to her. Like when she would walk, she would used to speed walk away from me whenever I'm in presence, and I always wondered why. I was like, what did I do to scare her? When I found out, I flipped her the bird a couple times. I flipped her the bird. It was stupid. It was immature, and I didn't even want to be around her. I hated her so much after that, and it got even worse because she ended up marrying a guy that was, of course, he had money. He came from money, and he flaunted around. He flaunted it around, and it's one thing. Look, I can take rejection. It's one thing to be rejected, even in a nasty way, but it's another when they continuously make fun of you. Once they were dating, they would have their little jabs at me. Once they got married, started having kids, they were still taking little pot shots. And it's not just like, it was like something subtle. Like, they'll walk by and I'll be painting a wall or something and be like, Glenn, if you only went to college, you could have been so much better. And I was still going to college. That's what they didn't know. And she would walk, and then of course I would be in the earshot, and she'd say, "Yeah, I almost dated him, but it just wasn't in the cards. It wasn't God's plan." Oh God, I'm gonna rip on Christians in another video. I know that I probably won't be able to monetize that, but anyway, I held this grudge for a long, long, long time, and it was just this festering. It was like this festering hatred, and oh my gosh, I think over time it finally started eating into my subconscious. Where even though, if my sources are correct, they're not together anymore because of a huge fallout in their marriage. Like it was so bad that I actually started laughing. I remember seeing the husband's face in the paper. He did something pretty bad, and I remember just busting up laughing. And then after a while, I stopped and realized I've held on to that grudge for a long freaking time. I'm a monster. I'm a monster. And even though they were jerks, I mean they were kind of jerks in real life, because some of the stuff that they did at work, you'd be like, what is wrong with you guys? They were jerks in real life, but I don't like to be in a position where you deserve all that because you're a jerk. I mean, I'm a big believer in karma, and I try to stay on the straight and narrow. But I think holding this grudge put me on the bad side of karma for a while, and I'm dealing with the repercussions. And that's something that I got to learn to cope with. Now, okay, that one went on a little too long. I hope you didn't mind a little story there. And see, I broke my promise. Now we're past the 20-minute mark. So I'm going to get down to the last bit of stress, and this is probably something that many of you are dealing with right now, and that is financial stress. Oh, yes. The housing crisis, student loan crisis, especially student housing, not so much now. But you take out a mortgage, and you're trying to make a mortgage, or you lose your job. You got mouths to feed, especially you got kids at home, and you don't know if you're paying an extra month's rent, or just trying to find a job. Trying to find a job this day and age, even if you have a college degree, even if you got a couple years experience under your belt. Right now it's still technically an employer's market, so they get to be picky and choosy on who they want to hire. But student loans, I'm dealing with a crisis with student loans. See, I got suckered into going to college because it was all that pressure. I felt pressured, and I let that stuff get to me. And I figured, well, I want to follow my passion because back then I loved to draw. I wanted to be an animator. I wanted to work in video games. I also did web development first, but I thought there was no future in that, and I don't know why. Probably because there was a crash around the time I graduated where there was no web development jobs in like Phoenix. I mean, it exploded now, but see, back then, like you couldn't get a web development job or a graphic design job unless you were willing to pay. They were paying you minimum wage. This is stuff you had to go to school for, but they're paying you minimum wage in 2006. And so I decided, well, I'm gonna go into video games because now this is $1 billion industry, and this will be my ticket out of Kingman, Arizona, and I'll be able to make a lot of money. But then even that didn't pan out because one, I finished my degree online, which was a dumb idea. Life happened. Mom was on her declining years. My sister became unemployed for a long stretch of time, so it was just me and her fiance at the time, just trying to make ends meet, and it wasn't fun. It sucked. But anyway, um, it was after that. It was when I started having to pay student loans. I was too optimistic. I thought, well, eventually something will come along because I was told through the financial advisor at my school was, you can work for anywhere in the country. It's like, so I believe like, well, are they gonna pay for moving expenses? Oh yeah, sure. Now sign up the dotted line. So what in reality is most companies will not pay for moving expenses unless you have like 10 years under your belt, 5 to 10 years under your belt. Your entry level, you're just out of school, forget it. No one's going to pay, or no one's going to give you a relocation bonus unless you're incredibly lucky and a company is incredibly awesome. Um, but where I'm at right now, I have financial stress, and thanks to all the other stresses, the verbal, emotional, and even not so much physical, but I have medical bills on top of that because I thought I was dying. That's kind of the crappy thing about having anxiety attacks and panic attacks is your body likes to it tricks your body into thinking that there is something wrong and your life's about to come to an end. It's come to a screeching halt. You're gonna fall on the floor or pass out or something, and it's not just that. It's like all that fear that I was born to believe in, all that stuff ingrained into my head that I'm still fighting this very day. It just accumulates. But between that and financial stress, it's difficult. Now I'm going to get to the point of why I'm talking about all this. There are ways to cope, and unless you can afford a good therapist, because even then, most therapists can't even solve your problems. Sometimes what's a good cure for financial stress is to make a lot more money. That's good. Pay off your debts. That's a good way to do it. Or change your name and start anew. I think that's what my dad did because I learned his real name and I'm like, holy crap. Anyway, yeah. But I started tuning into like meditation music. Um, if you have a phone, it's like a little portable MP3 player. If you get Pandora, look up like 432 megahertz or 532 megahertz. And this is stuff I'm starting to slowly get into, and it plays some real calm, soothing music. Or heck, get out into nature. Find a way to break away from your. Even if you're like married, if you're married or with somebody, and sometimes you want to break away from that person. And I don't blame you. Go out in nature. Or if you're happily together, then take that person with you. I don't want this to be entirely negative, but get out in nature, get away from the hubbub. You'd be surprised. This is why camping is actually very important. And I know some people, especially in millennial age, the idea of roughing it is not a good idea. I mean, you don't have to necessarily rough it. Take a backpack of first aid, bring some water, make a picnic out of it, for crying out loud. You know, get away from all of it. Get away from all of it. I mean, yeah, it's going to be there when you get back, but there are ways to get through it. Verbal and emotional is actually it's all in the mind. If you can get your mind, if you can rewire your mind, because you can rewire your mind to not think about that stuff. Try to create some positive memories for yourself. Like, okay, now people say a lot of stuff about MMOs, but there's a reason why I play a lot of video games. Not as much as I used to, because it's expensive. I can't afford it. And even if I did, it's like I play a lot of Final Fantasy 14 because I socialize with the people in that game. And they're a cool group of people. It helps me cope with all the verbal emotional, at least temporarily, until, I'm thinking alone and all of a sudden my brain says, remember that time back in high school that girl called you the N-word? And then it's back to square one. But, it's slowly over time. If you can surround yourself with people that will support you, because that's another thing with emotional and verbal stress. If you're around people that cause this kind of stress, at some point you're going to have to cut them off. Even if they're close to them, they're not serving you. Because at the end of the day, if somebody's not serving you and they're only taking advantage of you, putting more stress on you, you got to cut them off. At some point, you got to say, no, enough's enough. I mean, you could sit them down and try to talk it over, but a lot of times, they're not going to listen. They're just thinking, Oh, by the way, I got this headache. Because they make it about themselves and not about your issues. When they make it about themselves, they don't care about you. They don't care about you. Sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's better to love from a distance because it's better that way. I mean, it's always good to see them once in a while. As for financial stress, there are ways to refinance any form of debt. You just got to be careful because there are a lot of predatory debt consolidators out there. I've been through one. I'm looking into getting my student loans refinanced any way possible. Sometimes you may, and I don't like suggesting this, you might have to get a second job, find a secondary source of income. A lot of people are actually going online and trying this affiliate marketing stuff out. I'm actually learning little bits and pieces here. I've actually done certain online ventures which failed. I wrote a book that's not selling. I created a video game that's not selling. And I'm trying different things out. This YouTube thing is my newest one, but I like it because to me it's also therapy because I can actually talk about these things. Otherwise, I'd be talking to myself, and my neighbors will probably be calling me hobby mental right about now. I don't want that. So anyway, that's my not so short video of the 4 types of stress. If you like, or if you agree with what I have to say, or if you're experiencing stress, I'd like to hear it. I like people to share what you're going through right now. Maybe start a conversation. Let's get something going here, huh? If you like more, maybe you could subscribe to my channel, because I try to do videos 3 days a week. I'm trying, because I know there's no way I'm going to be doing 7 days a week unless I don't have a job. But sometimes I get drained from work and I'm just like, I don't want to do jack, but I want to try to do 3 to 4 videos a week, see what kicks, I'm just throwing stuff to the wall, see what sticks, but I talk about whatever's on my mind. And sometimes it's always going to be about work or college or stress. I might actually talk about pop culture, because I know pop culture is kind of a big deal. I've been trying to catch up on pop culture because I was like anti-pop culture when I was a teen in my 20s because I thought pop culture is for the masses, man. Well, I was stupid. People are, because that stuff makes them happy. So, and in turn that, oh God, I was an idiot in my 20s. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. So before this hits 30 minutes, I would like to say, if you're dealing with any kind of stress, there are ways to cope. Go on YouTube, find ways to meditate, find meditation music, and listen. Make it background noise. It'll do you a world of good. There are healing frequencies to tune into. Do yoga. Take up yoga. Take up jogging. Take up walking in the morning if you can. Anyway, that's all I got to say for today, and thank you very much for tuning in. Take care.